Right, today we're going to study ST 46.3, a very famous sutta, a very important sutta, the Danta Bhumi Sutta, the discourse on the taming grounds, M125, how the Buddha transforms others. Now, this sutta is a typical Majjhima middle-length sutta. It's quite long. It's almost as long as any of the Digha suttas. In fact, the second half of the sutta is very much like what is called the recluseship pericope, or the Samanyapala pericope. It's got all the whole progression of training. It's the first part, of course, which is interesting. The sutta opens with a novice monk living in a forested part of the bamboo grove. Well, he's a novice, so he's not well trained. He's not so adept in the Dhamma. And here comes along this prince Jayasena, son of one of the sons of King Bimbisara, and he asks a question. He asks this novice a question. But this novice is reluctant to teach. He says, I'm new. But the prince says, it's okay, just teach me. So in the end, the novice obliges. But the prince is not too happy. He disagrees with the novice. And then he goes away. So this is the occasion when this novice, being a little troubled, he goes to the Buddha and seeks the Buddha's advice. So we have here a very interesting, very important situation of someone who teaches the Dhamma. When we are not ready to teach the Dhamma, and then someone asks us to teach, and then we say, okay, but then somehow this person is not happy with what we say. So what do we do then? So basically the Buddha reminds us to make use of analogies, similes, parables, and so on, in other words, to express our ideas on two levels. There is what's called the conceptual level of ideas, that's one way, and the other one is a kind of less literary, more imaginative, more visionary level, poetic level, if you like, comparing what you say to some kind of imagery, especially something in daily life. So this is a lesson in teaching also, generally, especially teaching the Dhamma. Okay, let's look at the sutta. The translation is on page 32. Danta Bhumi Sutta, the discourse on the taming grounds. Oh yes, one more point. Danta here is an adjective. It means training. Or it can also mean someone who is tamed. It's an adjective. And it's similar to the word Dhamma in Purisa Dhamma. Dhamma with a double M means those who are able to be trained. And then there is Dhamma with a one M, which is a noun as well as an adjective, which can mean one who is tamed, or it can also mean taming. So here, of course, Danta, meaning taming, is used to mean the progressive stages of Buddhist training. And this is the term used in the sutta. There's some very interesting highlights in the sutta, which is almost unique to the sutta. For example, in this sutta, the phrase the Buddha or the Tathagata leads him further is repeated many times. Usually in the other suttas, the Buddha would say, there is still something more to be done. This is in reference to the three trainings. Training in sila, moral virtue, training in meditation, samadhi, and in wisdom, panya. So here we have this very interesting term, the Tathagata leads him further until he reaches arahathood. And there are a couple of other rather, you can say anomalies if you like, you can say some kind of unique features of this sutta, which I will point out as we come to it. Right, as usual, the sutta starts, thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was residing in the squirrel's feeding ground in the bamboo grove outside Rajagaha. Now, at that time, the novice Achiravata was dwelling in a forest cell. This is very interesting because this novice, the term here is Samanudesa. He is doing solitary meditation. So he's living in a forest hut, if you like. And the commentary tells us that this is in quite a remote forested part of the bamboo grove, whereas the Buddha is living in this somewhat more open space where there are lots of squirrels. Then Prince Jayasena, and the commentary says he's the son of King Bimbisara, while walking about on a stroll, approached the novice Achiravata and exchanged greetings with him, and so on. So they greet each other. So here we see this bamboo grove is like many other groves and gardens. They're very beautiful places, and they're very refreshing, especially in the morning. So people will go there for walks. Even the Buddha would do his walking exercise. Monks usually exercise by doing the walk up and down. Okay, so he was doing a bit of strolling, and then after greeting this novice, he sits down. So here again, we see the monks of early Buddhism. They are out there in the open. They are ready for the public. Anyone can come to them anytime, in other words. 2.3. Having sat down at one side, Prince Jayasena said this to the novice Achiravata. This I've heard, Master Agivesana. Okay, Agivesana, he addresses this novice by his clan name. This I have heard, Master Agivesana, that here among who dwells diligent, ardent, resolute, would achieve oneness of mind. Right, we find this statement, quite popular statement, in the Satipatthana Sutta, for example. So basically he's saying, well, if a monk works hard, trains hard, he is able to focus himself mentally. Then the novice replies, that is so, my prince, that is so, my prince. Here among dwells diligent, executive, and resolute, would achieve mental oneness. Okay, then in the next section, the prince said, okay, can you please give me more details? Can you teach me? But the novice replies, 3.2, I'm unable, my prince, to teach you the Dhamma as I've heard it, as I've mastered it. If my prince were to, if I were to teach you the Dhamma, as I've heard and I've mastered, you would not be able to understand its meaning. It would tire me and it would vex me. Right? So here basically the Nabi is saying he's not learned very much theory. He's probably doing meditation. So in our modern lingo, he would be saying, it's difficult for me to teach you something that you can understand. But the prince insists 3 times. So the prince says, 4.3, teach me, Master Agivesana, the Dhamma, as you have heard it, as you have mastered it. If I, Master Agivesana, understand the meaning of what is spoken by Master Agivesana, that would be good. If I do not understand what has been spoken by Master Agivesana, then we will leave it at that. And I will question you no further. Okay? Right, so the novice said, no novice, no choice, okay. And 5.2, when this was said, 5. The novice Achirevata then taught the Dhamma as he has heard it, as he had mastered it, to Prince Jayasena. Now we're not told what he said, because it's not something spectacular. So basically what he said did not impress the prince. So the prince actually objects. He says, 5.2, That is impossible, Master Agavesana. There's no way it can be. Where a monk who dwells diligent, ardent, and resolute would achieve oneness of mind. Then Prince Jayasena, having declared that it is impossible, that there is no way it can be, rose from his seat and departed. So this is the preamble, okay? Then the second part, you see this novice meeting the Buddha. So you see this kind of structure, kind of like cause-effect, all right? So in this case, it's not the Buddha who at the start of the sutta, is this novice Achiravata. So he goes to the Buddha. Not long after the prince has left, he visits the Buddha. And look at 6.4. After greeting the Buddha, when this was said, the Blessed One said to the novice Achiravata, how is it possible here, Agavesana, that which should be known through meditation, renunciation, that which should be seen through renunciation, that which should be attained through renunciation, that which should be realized through renunciation, that this would ever be known, seen, attained, or realized by Prince Jayasena, who lives enjoying sensual pleasures, who being consumed with sensual pleasures, burning with fever of sensual pleasures, being caught up with seeking sensual pleasures. This is impossible, right? So here the Buddha actually kind of comforts the novice and says, well, it's like that. This young prince, he's living such a luxurious life, how can he ever understand all these things you're telling him? Now this reminds us of another occasion where there was another prince called Hataka. He meets the Buddha sitting under a tree, and it's very cold, the wind's blowing, and the Buddha is just wearing a thin robe and meditating there quite comfortably, looking happy. So basically the prince asked the Buddha, how can you sit in this cold weather out here like this? Are you really comfortable? Are you happy? Then the Buddha says, yeah, I'm quite comfortable, I'm very happy sitting here. And the prince doesn't believe him. The prince says, that's impossible. How can you be so happy in this kind of place? Then the Buddha asked the prince, say, okay, you are a prince, right? So when you go back to your palace, do you feel happy? And then the prince said, well, come to think of it, it's not really a great place, because the moment I go back, there's so many women there, and everyone will be coming and telling me all kinds of things, So I'm here actually to get away from them. And then I have all these official matters to attend to, and so many problems to settle, and so on and so forth. Like, coming to think of it, that actually with all this wealth and comfort and pleasure, I'm not really that happy. So you see here that the Buddha is saying, giving his own examples as well, I have nothing to worry about. I have no women to worry about. I have no politics to worry about. I have no problems in that sense. So I must tell you that I am happy, right? So in that sense, Hataka is convinced. So basically the Buddha is using his own example in that case. So here the Buddha is teaching this novice how to answer this kind of person. So here we already have an important hint. Answering Dhamma question is not just answering the questions themselves. You have to measure, in a sense, what you give others. Whether it's like giving food, you don't overfeed a baby. You kind of give a baby just enough food. You give an old person who's not well just enough food, and so on. Even someone who can eat well, you do not overfeed the person. So you have to study your audience. You have to be aware of who's listening, what kind of mind he has. We try to, in a sense, read the person's mind, try to give something that is suitable on that level for this person. Basically, that kind of gives us an idea what's coming, okay? All right, now the Buddha begins with his teaching. First, he gives the parable of the two animals, how to tame a wild elephant, basically, all right? But first it talks about the nature of tame animals and wild animals. And this is very interesting because it relates to how we, if you like, personal psychology. Section 8. Suppose there were 2 tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were well tamed and well disciplined, and 2 tameable elephants, or tameable horses, or tameable oxen that were untamed and undisciplined. Right? So we're talking about animals that can be tamed. So you've got 2 which are already tamed, but 2 others which are still wild. Then what do you think, Agivesana? What would the 2 tameable elephants or tameable horses or tameable oxen that were well tamed and well disciplined, being so, assume the nature of the tame? Would they attain to the level of the tame? So basically here, can they, is it easy to manage them basically? Yes, Bhante, of course. Then the Buddha asks, okay, now consider the other 2, the two untamed animals. Can you treat them like these tame animals? Would they be disciplined? No, Bhante, of course not, right? So the Buddha says, even so, you have this animal, these 3 pairs of animals that are not tame, that are wild. You can't, they cannot behave like tame animals. You cannot use them as if they are tame. So also those who do not know what renunciation is about, who have never experienced it, and who live pleasurable lives, they cannot, in other words, they will never know, see, attain, or realize what it is about. So the prince enjoying sensual pleasures will not be able to understand this kind of teaching. So that is why here in the gradual teaching, the Buddha begins with some basic things, basic doctrines like giving, nature, the heavens, giving precepts, and so on. All right? Okay, then the Buddha goes on to another parable. This is the parable of the hill view. All right. So notice here in the first parable, the Buddha talks about 2 tame animals and 2 untamed animals. The untamed animals cannot behave like the tame animals. Now, in this hill view parable, the Buddha shows that you have to see things for yourself in order to understand. So there are 2 friends here, all right? And they have approached a hill, section 9. Suppose, Agivesana, there were a great hill or a cliff even, not far from a village or a market town, and 2 friends from that village or market town were to depart from it and approach the hill hand in hand. Right? So you see these Indians, they don't mind walking hand in hand, especially going up a hill. On reaching it, one friend were to remain at the foot of the hill, and the other goes to the top of the hill. Then the friend at the foot of the hill would say to the friend at the top of the hill, thus, well, my friend or my dear, what do you see as you stand on a hilltop? And the person standing on the top of the hill would say, here, standing on the hilltop, my friend, I see delightful parks, delightful forests, delightful terrains, delightful lotus lakes. But then the other person who is down there at the foot of the hill says, that's impossible, How can that be? He says. He doesn't believe. So what happens now? So this friend who is on the top of the hill, he comes down. And then he holds the hand, he catches the hand of his friend and kind of helps him up the hill. And they both stand on the hill. And then he says, okay, now can you see all these beautiful places, the parks and the forests and the terrains and the lotus lakes, and these other friends say, yeah, now I can see. So this is another very simple, very beautiful analogy, parable. How do we apply this to teaching? Learning the Dharma is like climbing this hill, and this person has not seen the other side. So you hold this person's hand, you guide him. The whole person's hand means you reach the level of the person. As we say, even in teaching, we touch the person's heart with Dhamma. And then we gently bring him up the hill, right? So slowly teach him Dhamma deeper and deeper and go up the hill. And then he sees for himself. This is very important. He has to see for himself. Then after all the teaching, it's like climbing up the hill, then he realizes for himself. He sees for himself and says, oh, now I see. All right? So this is a very beautiful parable here. All right? So what does this mean? Section 10, the Buddha explains, so too Agavesana was Prince Jayasena, obstructed, hindered, covered, shrouded by an even greater mess than this, that of ignorance, right? So not understanding renunciation, not having experienced it, so he will never be able to understand the Dhamma. So you have to kind of teach the Dhamma to him in a special way. Now the Buddha continues, how do we teach, right? So the Buddha says, well, I've given you these two parables to show you how to teach the Dhamma. Notice here, even in teaching Acharavata is learning. Who better to learn from than the Buddha himself? So the Buddha is telling Acharavata, okay, these are the parables you can use. Right, so later on, I'm sure Acharavata will himself use these parables. Then, 11.2, Acharavata asks a question. But how, Bhante, could these two parables that I have not heard of before have occurred to me naturally or spontaneously for the sake of Prince Jayasena, as they did to the Blessed One, right? So here then, obviously it's a little bit lacking confidence. He says, wow, it's great, you're a teacher, you know this, but it's a bit difficult for me, okay? Then the Buddha continues with another parable, section 12. Agavesana, suppose a head-anointed Kshatriya Raja, or noble king, were to address his elephant forester thus: my good elephant forester, mount the royal elephant to the elephant forest, and upon seeing the forest elephant, bind him by the neck to the royal elephant. All right? So this is how the ancient kings trapped their elephants. Now, elephants are very important to the ancient kings of India. They were his artillery, like the tanks of today. So when he goes to war, he needs his elephant, and the elephants need to be properly trained. So he has what is called the elephant forest. So this elephant will dwell wild there, and then the elephants will grow. Then they will hunt the bigger, the stronger elephants. So he's telling his elephant, his forester, to get ready to catch some wild elephants. Okay, so the elephant forester does just that. He mounts the royal elephant, this very noble elephant. He goes into the elephant forest to catch an elephant. So, what does he do next? 12.3. Now you can see the brackets, number 1, 2, 3, the sequence of how elephants are tamed in the Buddha's time. That elephant forester then tells the head-anointed Kshatriya Raja, Your Majesty, the elephant has come out in the open. Okay, there's something here which I have not said yet. Let's go back a little further. You see, okay, this elephant forester goes into the forest and he sees a wild elephant, and he managed to catch it and put a rope around its neck and then ties it to the noble elephant. So here again you see there are two elephants, one tame, one wild. Previously also you have two friends, one who climbs to the hill, since the other side, the other one has not. So that there is someone who knows and someone who doesn't. So here you have the tame noble elephant and you have the untamed wild elephant. So he follows the wild elephant follows the noble elephant. First it comes out of the forest into the open. That's the first strategy. And then in section 12.5, section 3, there's one more. No? So section 3, brackets 3, right at the top of page 37. Get him to delight being near a village so that he feels natural being amongst humans. So this is the next strategy. The king tells the trainer, okay, bring him to nearer the village, so he's used to the idea of humans and the villages. Sorry? That is the training. Well, I can read that if you want. 12.4. We're going back a little bit. Then Agivesana, the head anointed Kshatriya Raja, would address the elephant tamer. Come, my good elephant tamer, tame the forest elephant so as to subdue his habit of the forest, so as to subdue his memories and thoughts of the forest, so as to subdue his distress, weariness, and fever for the forest. Okay, here, how to make the elephant feel comfortable, feel at home, and don't miss the forest. So then they bring him, the king says, bring him closer to the village, so he gets used to the idea of people, all right? So that's part, section 3. Then, next stage, the king instructs the trainer to sink a pole, put a strong post in the ground. 12.5. Then Agivesana, he sinks a great post into the ground and binds the forest elephant by the neck to it. So now the wild elephant is no more tied to the tame elephant, because previously this wild elephant would follow the tame elephant. Okay, so now the elephant is tied to a pole. So in other words, the elephant is by himself now. Okay, so what is to be done here? This is to make sure he's getting more comfortable. He will forget the forest, get used to being tame. 12.6. The elephant tamer Agivesana then addresses it with words that are gentle, pleasant to the ear, loving, touching the heart, obeying, delighting to the multitude, pleasing to the multitude, listens, give ear, sets his mind on learning, right? So these are all terms actually for the Dharma, okay? How the audience should be treated. So this elephant trainer speaks very nicely, lots of metta, lots of loving kindness to the elephant. All right. So this is stage 4. Okay. Now stage 5, that is 12.7. The elephant tamer Agivesana further offers him grass, fodder, and water. When the forest elephant accepts grass, fodder, and water, it occurs to the elephant tamer, now this royal forest elephant will live. Okay, so in other words, now he's almost becoming a royal elephant too. All right. In other words, this elephant can be used. He's accepting food from the trainer. All right. Now the next step becomes more interesting. Section 6. The elephant trainer then makes him work further, saying, "Take it up, sir. Put it down, sir." Right. So it's called the elephant, sir. I mean, this is in the Indian word, right? So it's giving instructions to make sure this elephant is able to listen, gets used to the instructions. And notice the words here are very short, right? Take it up, put it down, all right? And the word sir is used to kind of like connect with the elephant, make the elephant feel comfortable. Now Agivesana, when the royal elephant obeys the elephant tamer's orders to take something up and put something down, the elephant tamer makes him work further. Okay, notice here. Here the word is make him work further. So the Buddha is going to repeat this for the Dharma training, right, later on. So now that the elephant knows how to take it up, put it down, the trainer gives new instructions. Go forward, sir. Go backwards. All right. So for us, so now more instructions are given, and then after that, further instructions. Look at 12.10. The trainer says, stand up, sit down. Right. So these are all the different important instructions, because this elephant is going to go to war. So you must know all this, obey all these instructions. And finally, or at this, the highlight of this training is number 7. He has to do something further, a task called the imperturbable. Wow, this is a big one. Look at the word, the imperturbable. In other words, the unshakable, the immovable, right? So he binds a great shield to the elephant's trunk. A man holding a lance sits on his neck. So here you are. He's becoming a war elephant now. There's a soldier with a spear sitting on his neck. And men, each holding a lance in his hand, stand surrounding him, meaning the elephant. And the elephant tamer himself, holding a lance pole, stands in front of him. Now, when he is performing the task called the imperturbable, he moves neither his forelegs nor his hind legs. He moves neither the front of his body nor the back, nor his back. He moves neither his head nor his ears. He moves neither his stars nor his tail. He moves not his trunk. So he remains stationary, very calm. Okay. Now there's something which is not mentioned here, but mentioned in one of the suttas given to Rahula, elephant trainer. The elephant would put his trunk into his mouth. So once they notice this, then they know this elephant is ready. That this elephant is trained. He's ready to go to war. Okay. Now I think the reason is because the most sensitive part of the elephant is the tip of his nose. So he puts the nose in the mouth to protect it. So, okay, the training is still not finished yet. So this elephant stands very still, immovable. 12.13. The royal elephant endures being hit by spears, by swords, by arrows, by enemies from the other side, and endures the sounds and din of the beri. Beri is a conical drum, cymbals, conch shells, and the dindima. Okay, so these are drums which the enemies would carry, make a lot of noise to confuse the horses and even elephants and soldiers. But here, so they train this elephant to be calm. All right? It's basically like the way the police train the police dogs also in the same way. Right, then the Buddha continues and says, 12.14, now is the last part. Being free of all wiles and faults, purified of any deficiency, he is worthy of the king, in the king's service, and is reckoned as a limb or an emblem of the king. Okay? So now that he's properly trained, he is regarded as a royal elephant, part of the king's symbol, if you like. So you can see a hint of all this Dharma training here. Right? Right, now the Buddha continues. He says, so too. All right, once you see so too, that means the Buddha is going to link all these teachings. Section 13. And then the next section, the Buddha says, you can see the numbering there, or 1 to 8 also. You can see how each element of the parable connects to the teaching. Okay, so you can see brackets 1, the renunciation pericope. Basically, the Buddha is saying, well, there's a Buddha present in the world now, and he's well qualified, he has overcome Mara, and then he teaches the Dhamma. Okay, so this is the first part, the the Dharma, the Buddha and the teaching, the teacher and the teaching are available. Then part 2, second part of the parable, you have a householder seeing that the household life is crowded, he leaves the house. Remember, the second part of the elephant parable is the elephant leaves the forest. Okay, so here this person renounces the world, he leaves home, so he's like the elephant leaving the elephant forest. Of course, in the case of the elephant, you have the tame elephant leading the wild elephant out of the forest. Then, after that, he gives up all his wealth and family and so on, and he ordains, he becomes a monk, and this is like the elephant coming out to the open, right? This is 14.3 on page 40. Then he trains in moral conduct. So notice the line 15, section 15, the Tathagata leads him further in this, thus, come bhikshu, be morally virtuous, right? And then the Buddha tells him what to do, practice the Vinaya rules, keep to the Patimokkha and so on, practice sense restraint. Okay, so the Buddha leads him further to practice sense restraint. The Buddha says, be guarded in your senses, right? Keep your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind guarded, right? And then there is moderation in food, okay? Eating just enough so that you can practice meditation and so on. And then next, section 18, wakefulness, to know how to use your time well. During the day, do your walking meditation, and then sitting down when you're tired, lying down. Same thing in the night, during the first watch, second watch, and third watch too. Here what's interesting is the meditating monk only rests during the second watch or middle watch. The first watch, it starts from sunset to 10 o'clock, around 10 o'clock by our time. You have the first watch, okay, 6 to 10, and then 10 to 2, if he's tired, he lies down, and then 2 to 6, again, he does his meditation, okay. Usually, the monks would rest, say, around 2 to 4, or 2-3 hours only, they're meditators. Then the Buddha leads him further by teaching him mindfulness and clear comprehension, how to be very mindful of all the bodily actions, moving forward, moving back, looking, bending, even in the toilets, and so on, okay? Still, so here, this is the training in moral virtue. And then with that, the Buddha teaches him how to overcome the 5 mental hindrances. This is section 21.3, how to overcome covetousness, that is sensual pleasures, sensual desires, how to overcome ill will and anger, how to overcome restlessness and guilt, how to overcome doubt, right? And when this is done, there's something interesting here. He goes on to practice the 4 satipatthana, watching the body in the body, feelings in feelings, the mind in the mind, and the Dhamma in the Dhammas. Okay? So notice the sequence here, overcoming the 5 mental hindrances, and then, in other words, clearing the mind, and then practicing the 4 satipatthana. On the other hand, you can also, practicing the 4 satipatthana, then you overcome all the mental hindrances, then you get jhana. But here, you have overcoming, understanding what the hindrances are, and then going to practice the satipatthana. And here, the Buddha says this is like the great post being buried in the ground, and the elephant is tied to it. So when you practice the satipatthana, you keep your mind on the meditation object, on the 4 focuses of mindfulness. Now, what is said next is very important, letting go of thoughts. Look at section 24. Then the Tathagata leads him further in this, thus, come Bhikshu, dwell observing the body in the body, and do not think any thoughts. And the same thing for observing feeling in feeling, observing mind, the mind in the mind, observing dharmas in the dharmas. Do not think any thoughts regarding whatever it is, whether it's the body, it's the feeling, it's the mind, or it is the dharmas. So there you are. It is very important here, this verse, section 24, where we say that in jhana, we let go of all thoughts. You can see here, even in the preparation, this is kind of, you free the mind from thoughts. Now we come to this anomaly which I mentioned. In most suttas, as a rule, 4 jhanas are mentioned. But here we see the next heading, only the 3 jhanas. The first jhana is not mentioned. There's a bit of a mystery here. Some scholars have kind of wonder what's going on here. Could there be a mistake and so on? But if you see here, there's an extra passage here, and that is section 24, where the Buddha talks about having no thoughts. Right? And we know once jhana starts, thoughts become very diminished. And in the first jhana, there's only a minimum of kind of mental process, if you like, with vitakka, vichara. So the first jhana, in other words, is implicit. Right? So we can say it's represented by section 24. Or we can say it is represented in section 25 by the verse. If you look at the third line, it says, free from initial application, from sustained application. Okay, so that initial application, sustained application represents first jhana anyway. Right, so you have the 3 jhanas following, everything is the same as in other texts, so I won't go into it. Then, in fact, it's very brief, the 4 jhanas just mentioned briefly, and then as a result, the 3 knowledges arise. So here in section 26, this 26.1, person having attained the 4th jhana, he directs his mind to recollecting past lives. Okay, so this is the first of the 3 knowledges, knowledge of the recollection of past lives. Then it goes on to cultivate the knowledge of karma, the knowledge of the passing away and re-arising of beings according to karma. And then finally he overcomes all the defilements. He has the knowledge of the destruction of the mental influxes. Okay, so here he understands the Four Noble Truths. He knows what are the mental influxes, the arising, the ending, and the path leading to the ending of the influxes. The influxes, 3 of them are mentioned here. He overcomes the influx of sensual desires, the influx of existence, and the influx of ignorance. Okay, so he has become an arahat. Right here, the usual formula says, with release, there is the knowledge, release, am I. He knows birth is ended, the holy life has been lived, done is that which needs to be done. There is nothing further beyond this. So there you are, finally, this last sentence is different. There's nothing more beyond this. Now, he's an arahat, but here the description of the arahat is unique to this sutta, section 30. That monk endures cold and heat, hunger and thirst, gadflies, the touch of mosquitoes and creeping things. He has grown patient with the words and speech that are ill-spoken and unwelcome, with painful feelings that have arisen in the body, sharp, piercing, racking, unpleasant, disagreeable, taxing on the breath. Cleansed and freed of all impurities, that is lust, hate and delusion, worthy of offerings, worthy of hospitality, worthy of gifts, worthy of salutation with the lotus palm, a supreme field of merit for the world. So this is a very beautiful description of an arhat. Right? So this is the conclusion of the training. Then the Buddha closes with two very important statements to remind us the purpose of being a Buddhist. Section 31. If I gave a sinner, the royal elephant were to die in old age, untamed and undisciplined, then he would be reckoned simply as an old royal elephant that had died untamed. So there's nothing worthwhile about it. So if he's not tame, he might die middle age. So people will say, oh, he just died untamed, middle age. So if he even died young and untamed, that's all people will say. Even so, says the Buddha, Agivesana, if an elder monk were to die without having destroyed the influxes, then he would be reckoned simply as an elder monk who had died untamed. So too a middle-aged monk, middling monk, or a novice monk, if they do not attain arahathood, they will say, well, they died untamed. On the other hand, finally says the Buddha, if the royal elephant were to die in old age, well-tamed and well-disciplined, people will say, wow, this elephant died tame. So too in the case of the middle-aged elephant and the young elephant. If they are well-tamed, people will praise it, well, this elephant is tame and he died tame. In other words, he lived a full life. So too in the case of the elder monk, the middle-aged monk, and the novice monk. If they become arahats and they die arahats, people will say they have lived they have tamed themselves, they have become arahats, and they have reached the end of their training. So the sutta ends there, right? So it's a very beautiful sutta. So do read this sutta for yourself. You can look at certain sections. There are headings there for you. You can look at the parables. One way is to look at the first parable, study it carefully, and then another time look at how the parable connects with the rest of the sutta, and notice the stages of training of a Buddhist, in other words. So let us close with a short reflection of this. To be a Buddhist is to take up some kind of progressive training, to see ourselves as being very fortunate and ready to come out of our forest into the open space. And the Buddha is that noble elephant that leads us out of the forest, so that we are ready to be tamed through meditation, and then to attain wisdom for ourselves. In that way we are free from the forest, we are free from suffering. And by this wonderful truth, may we be blessed with happiness and health and wisdom in this life itself. And may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to aspire to at least stream winning in this life itself. By the same three jewels, may our loved ones, our family and friends, to be well and happy. And may those who are practicing the Dharma to find their path and fruits in this life itself. And may those who are lost and having difficulty to see the true Dharma for themselves and be free in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.